So looking at a vanity metric, ROAS is a vanity metric, absolutely, because what does it not tell us? It doesn't tell us who's new. It doesn't tell us who's returning. A 2x return on brand? No way. It doesn't happen. That's horrible. That's bad. So what do we have to do? Would we make changes? Would we start to, strategize different things, or have we not looked deep enough? Our ROAS is going to be terrible. It absolutely will be. On a ROAS model, this on the face failed. We just didn't look deep enough. This is what we have to look at. Today's talk is about understanding the goal and how to measure that goal and how to look everywhere. And I'm going to pull up an example, and we're going to have to probably blur the screen here for if we want to use this publicly. But this is a client that sells hot sauce. And this client's goal when he came on board was, if I can get conversions under $20, and I'd like to have a 3 or 4x return. So 3 to 400% ROAS. In the last 30 days, as example, I have a 206 ROAS. I'm 100% lower than where I would need to be. The client would be upset. We did have a 400, 500% return on investment when we started with them. Now it's down to 200%. Over the course of a year and a half, probably actually even longer, almost now 2 years, I've reduced 66% of ROAS. The client's super happy though. Why? Well, we've talked to the client and we've retrained them into thinking different ways. And here's another thing, a 200% return, and then check this out. Inside of Performance Max, the Insights tab shows what? Brand. Brand for the first, anything above essentially $200, we have brand, and everything else is non-brand. That would be an upset client. A 2x return on brand? No way. Doesn't happen. That's horrible. That's bad. So what do we have to do? Would we make changes? Would we start to strategize different things, or have we not looked deep enough? A 2x return on brand, everyone here would agree the client would be upset majority of the time. And maybe let's drop in the chat. Anybody think that the client wouldn't be upset over a 2x on brand with 2 campaigns running? That's the chat. I'm going to move on. This is what we have to look at, is what is the cost of acquiring a new customer? What do they spend over the course of their lifetime, and is it scaling? And is this something that is sustainable long-term? And we have to teach that to our client, but to teach them, we have to identify everything that's going on. So first thing we look at is, okay, last 30 days. If we compare last 30 days to the previous year, we've spent 181% more and made 351% more. So with this new strategy here, when we went through a transition into Performance Max that actually killed what I think back in 2020 when we first signed on with them, or 2021, I forget exactly what the date range was, but we're cruising around at like a 400, 500% ROAS. Let me just see what those here. Yeah, 282 back in January and March, January through March of 2021. Now, last 30 days, I spent a bunch more and I have a 2x return. So what do we look at? Well, year over year, and we've already started 2 years ago, but just even year over year growth, we see that our ROAS is up 60% from where it was when we were just running smart shopping because we're decaying customers. Well, we're decaying customers. Why? Smart shopping was heavy remarketing of existing audiences. When we shut that off, the client lost money. So it's like, oh, well, what do we do? Well, now we know that when we stop engaging our existing customers, yes, we actually lose money. When we track that, how? By looking at their actual bank account, essentially, which is the back end of their website, CMS. And I'll go through that here in a moment. But the ROAS is reduced from a year and a half ago, and I've spent 181% more now. So they're thinking I'm losing money faster. So we know that year over year, not only is there a large growth, but it is in the brand name. This client's not running anything else. They have a Facebook campaign that I think Yvonne helped set them up, that it's not spending that much at all. And we can even see the back end. Facebook made $345 out of the $47,000 in the last 30 days. The only thing we're doing is Performance Max. So we're reducing ROAS. That's bad. Okay. Well, why? Let's look at the previous year. Well, their business is up 87% in the last 30 days compared to last year. That's good. Now, again, Facebook's up 43%, but that's only 345. Recharge 2000 is up 1100%. They started getting subscriptions. Okay. But we have 80% growth of the store with a reduction of 100% return on ad spend. The returning customer rate did not change. That is a really important metric to know. 80% growth and the returning customer rate is 40%. What does this tell us? Well, this tells us that if I bring in a new customer, 40% of the time, they're going to buy again. How often? We have to look at that too. How often are these people returning? Month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. Scalable growth. Now we're looking at an LTV model. Okay, so what's our CAC? What is our cost of acquiring the new customer? Again, these are not they're not high value products. It's $63 average cart value. So it's not like they're 300, 400% or $300, $400 products. Our ROAS is going to be terrible. It absolutely will be. On a ROAS model, this on the face failed. We just didn't look deep enough, and we're understanding the growth rate, and we weren't understanding the trends. We weren't understanding yet who these people are that are buying and how much they spend over time and how frequently they buy. On the face, a lot of times we'll look at it and be like, hey, John, we have a client here, like on our Wednesday meeting. I'm not saying anybody in particular, but a lot of times it's, hey, John, it's a 191% ROAS and the client wants 3. They're mad. And then we spend time going through and diving deeper and then making a strategy from what we have identified and pitching that to the client and getting them on board and moving forward. So as we look at horrible ROAS, we look at horrible with the brand name, brand recognition, what are we really seeing? Well, a lot of times the reason why brands coming inside of their search is because of this reason right now. I don't mind brand. 40% of the people that buy from us Google our brand and buy again. But if I can increase that 90% and then look down here, sales attributed to marketing up 203% this year compared to last year, these are not numbers that just happen. They don't just appear. Like everything is trending in the right direction. Even online store conversion rates up 21% year over year. We have to look at everything. We have to dive deeper. We have to say, here's what we are doing. We almost have to become a CMO/accountant. On the face, the client's judging us by, well, ROAS is bad. It's like, and I always ask people, okay, what's their cost of acquiring a new customer? We don't know. How many new customers do they get? I don't know. How much do they spend over the course of a year? I don't know. Well, then how are we measuring ROAS then? ROAS is a nice figure, but it's like, hey, our click-through rate is 2%. It should be 4. Okay, well, what's the ROAS? 1 billion. Well, all right, well, there you go. That's what we should be tracking. So looking at a vanity metric, ROAS is a vanity metric. Absolutely, because what does it not tell us? It doesn't tell us who's new. It doesn't tell us who's returning. ROAS high is indicative of returning. We have to understand here too that it's very rare to get a 4, 5, and 6x return on pure cold traffic. That's hard. New and returning, 500 all day long, easy. If you have a good AOV. Well, if you don't have a good AOV, well, what do you look at? Well, are we at least acquiring customer for less money than what they spend with us? And if so, that at volume is going to be excellent. I'll give you a really good use case here. Everyone knows that I work with a company called, their ROAS is horrible. Horrible ROAS. If we look at, here's Northbeam, they're at a 1.7. The last 7 days, I only made a 1.23. I'm down 24%. That's because I actually had a sale. But I have a 1.23 ROAS. Client's happy. Why? Cost of acquiring a new customer is $49. So the cost of acquiring a new customer is $49. And I asked the client, I trained him because the CMO that was there has a very high ROAS focus. And I said, yes, I understand that, but do we look at this here, which is what is our returning and what's our new and what is the revenue that we have? And does that revenue split allow us to continue on at this pace? Here's the last 90 days. In the last 3 months, this company here, their first time sales, 4.5 million. The returning customer sales, 1.5 million. We could spend 4.4 million to make 4.5 million because the next quarter we're going to make $1.5 million. Well, what if this was 10 million, spending 9.9 to get there? Would this go up to 3 million? Yes. Okay, now we're thinking differently now. We're thinking of, and this is that sale that ended up dropping our ROAS this last week. So that's why like everything looks terrible. It usually looks a lot better, but they just hit a huge sale. So that's why it's probably a bad time to like look at like what the ROAS actually is. But this is what we have to train our customers and to think about. And if they say, no, I disagree, I want high ROAS, I've actually even explained back to the client, okay, so you're cool with us going after a lot of brand. No, right. We have to look at the new versus returning. We have to look at what is it actually costing us for new. We have to actually see how much that new turns into returning. We have to identify how much does that returning actually spend. A lot of times it's low. It's maybe 1.1, 1.2 times that they return. Okay, now what do we do? Well, we have a horrible ROAS, we have a horrible AOV, and the LTV is terrible. That's difficult. So what do? We dive a little bit deeper. What are you doing through email? Do you have any SMS? How are you marketing to your existing customer database? And if your existing customer database says, hey, we get one shot and then we're just going to yell at you if it doesn't keep happening, we have a broken model then in the business. The business is using a cross our fingers to get the second sale type of marketing strategy. That's a bad marketing strategy. Now, it's not up to us to fix it. It's up to us to make our clients understand that. We're not email marketers. We're not retention professionals. We're new traffic growth. We drive new business in. If you piss off every client and they go away and they never come back and your product's horrible, we were doomed from the beginning. Nothing we could do. Nothing. There's nothing that we can do. I can't make your product better and give you better employees and hire new people for you to have retention. That is one that will fail. Okay. Once we remove those people, then we have all the people that we have left over that we can have this model make sense. So we have to first look at what is year-over-year growth. Is it trending in the right direction? Clients will have a horrible ROAS and be okay with it if they see that the 87% of their new customers that are coming in are 40% returning customers. If the average order value is 35, then we look at this and pull out a calculator here. So $35.91 times 1.4 is $50 in those last 30 days of what essentially a new customer could be worth, because as you fill up the pipeline, they start to return X amount of days, weeks, months later, and that becomes the norm. So it's $50 for a 30-day LTV. So $50 30-day LTV and my cost per conversion is 33. That's why this company is growing at an 80% rate. It's cost me $30 to make $50 in 1 month. Now the average order value here is $63. They only because they have large orders that come through. They're not the norm though. Some people just buy $1,000 worth of sriracha because they own a restaurant, and that happens actually quite frequently, which we have to take into consideration the LTV of those customers as well. But when we're looking at, oh, I got a 2X and I just see the brand all the time, that's bad. But then you say, okay, but there's 80% more growth. These people are not returning, they're returning and they're purchasing at a 40% rate. The LTV already outpaces the CAC in 30 days. And we're seeing that our conversion rates are even up. So yeah, 200% looks bad. Brand looks bad. Why? Why is that happening? So we have to know our numbers. We have to know where to look. We have to know where to dive deep. This is what I'm trying to see. There we go. I finally got it. So this is actually, let me rephrase that. This is the hot sauce client here. This is year-over-year growth. This last month compared to the previous month. And we do see, yeah, they're having, analytics not going to track all sales, but they are having 12% better e-commerce conversion rate, 67% more transactions for 38% more revenue. This is good growth. I don't care if you see the brand name in Google Ads. That if you want to complain about that after we doubled your business this last year, we're having the wrong conversation. We've trained you incorrectly. We've made you look at numbers incorrectly. If I can double your business plus have all those people return at the pretty much the exact same rate, you should be a happy camper. I failed my job. So we look at the surface a lot. What is going on with Google? That's looking at the snapshot of the last part. We're not seeing everything else, and we don't dive as deep as we need to really train our clients to say, oh, I'm happy with a 200% brand. That doesn't happen. We don't hear people saying like, yeah, brand at 200% ROAS. Sure, I'm very happy, but that's where we have to look. So look at year-over-year growth, look at returning customer rate, look at the lifetime value of the client. We look at even the average order value that supports having a low ROAS. we have to look at, are they running other channels? Because if they're not running on other channels, great. This is now all to us. If they are running at other channels, we're going to go through that next. But this is a very singular type of scenario that I think I hear a lot and I see a lot. We don't have the answers to, which means the client thinks we're doing poorly. And this is how to get all the answers to then retrain the client. I think I want to stop there and see any questions so far, because I think that this is a very sensitive topic that a lot of people are struggling
I agree with you. And I know I told people like, hey, we're going to hold questions, but this is where we're going to balance that just a little bit. Because Regina had some good ones. Regina asks, is 1.2x return customers the same as a 20% returning customer rate in Shopify?
Yes.
And that's what John just said is low.
1.2 could be low. Yeah. Yeah.
Regina says, but we don't know how many times they'll return. So a new customer could be worth way more than $50.
Right. Now we can ask the client that. And if a client says, I don't know, they cannot hold our feet to the fire on ROAS. That's the thing. You can't say, I might be making $1 million next month, but I made $7 today. That's not a fair argument. And we need to train them by saying, okay, if we know we're making 150% return on ad spend, what is the return rate? What is the average order value? What is the lifetime value of that customer? And if they don't have those metrics, we cannot identify ROAS. Really, we can't.
This is a really important sales conversation. So I'd like the sales team to pay super close attention to this. You don't have to know the ins and outs of how to do all of these things, but you do have to know that this is the way we're going to sell this. It's based off of LTV, new customer acquisition, long-term strategy. It's actually a better sell to a client that understands. Andrew says customer lifetime can be calculated by one divided by churn rate. So churn, Andrew, can you explain what you've chatted here? I'm so sorry, I don't understand it.
Yeah, so what you can do is 1 divided by the churn rate. Churn equals 1 minus the retention rate or returning rate. So on this one, it's not a complete picture, but you can start it off by saying like 1 minus 39% here. It gives you about 60%. And then that can give you your customer lifetime. Right. So I got a little calculator.
That's great. Those little calculators are good for us to have.
I'll send a screenshot later on.
Yeah, share that with Ari if you don't mind, so she can include it in the card. Also, Caden made a good point. The app that John's referring to is called By the Numbers. It's a Shopify app.
Yeah, it's $12 a month. Most clients are completely happy with having that.
Caden asks, is there another Shopify app that sums this up cleanly that is free?
By the Numbers has a 7-day free trial. So if you want to use a 7-day free trial, get a snapshot of the numbers, then cancel on it. It'll do the same thing, but not that I know of that does it as well. So how many first-time customers? This is a huge important metric here. In the last 90 days, we have 100,000 new customers. And here's the fun part too, is if you look at, we'll just do like year to date. When this client came on board, he had a lot of new first-time customers and had a lot of really good growth, but then fired the agency that was working for him because they were selling masks. Masks during a pandemic. Yep, that's easy. The brand loyalty, you sell hair care products. That's your brand name. No. So we're looking at a whole bunch of first-time customers in 2021 that bought all their masks, and then it just declined here and hired us here. We brought it back to where they had their mask as a good structure. But here's what happened: they made a whole bunch of money on the returning. See, the purple is the new, the green is the returning. I'm colorblind, so it might be blue, but purple or blue, whatever that is first time returning is high. And then all of a sudden, mask mandates lifted in February 2022, boop, just lost them. And so now our job is to get the purple back up, and we have been able to do that after they went down to 25,000 first-time customers. Then we brought it up to 34, and it's been 33, 32. And then obviously we're 3/4 of the way through July. So first-time customer acquisition, that's one of the reasons why a company that makes $12 million or $24 million a year, this sole reason right here is why we exist. The new versus returning. That's it. ROAS 1.4. Cool, John. Great. Give me more new customers because I need to have this happen. Now, yes, this is bigger customers, but smaller customers don't track wrong metrics that grow into bigger customers that track right metrics. It doesn't happen. They don't make that educational decision to be like, aha, now I'm going to track the right thing at scale. No, you have to track the right thing from the beginning to scale. So any further questions? I saw like 14 in the chat, so I wasn't sure.
No, we got through the questions. I'm going to revisit something though, because I took notes and you said we're going to look at new versus returning. What does a new customer cost? How many new are returning, which is our return rate? What else are we doing to earn the second sale? So I'm going to take that actually out of this list and put it on a shelf elsewhere, because that belongs to retention strategy. Year-over-year growth, LTV, AOV. Here's what I'd like to do if you don't mind, and stop me if I'm bogarting your curriculum. I'd like to talk briefly about how to calculate each of these data points and add anything to the list if you think that I missed anything.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So as I did it on screen, but I did it quickly.
Right.
So here's what we have to look at. The first thing that we need to know is what is the CPA and what is a new customer. Here's the bad part. Shopify can't do that. That's why Northbeam exists. So if we do have Northbeam, this is one thing that I look at really, really carefully, is the cost of acquiring a first-time customer. I'll show this briefly. I'll show you how to get there. But this is something that if a client doesn't know, is going to fire us, but would really like to know and wishes he could solve it or she could solve it, this is the area that we would look at. And let me just set this up because it's going to take a second.
And tell us what you're doing while you're setting it up, John. You went to cash snapshot instead of accrual.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Okay.
kind of get there, because there's a few things I have to set up, and I'll just kind of review to make sure this is this, and then look here. Otherwise I'm like, do this and then wait 10 seconds. It just takes a little while. All right. I'll go through here. Let's do that. Let's do clicks views. I'll go through this whole thing. This is where we get to have a really nice understanding of what's going on. And I have clients they'll look at this and say, okay, put a lot of money there. Like that product's selling good. That one, I like that product. That one has good, they have their numbers. It's real easy to dictate strategy. Very, very easy. So this is what we'll look at here. And let's pull that. Can I hide this? Because it's like right in the way. I can move it over there. Okay, there we go. That'll work. So what I'm looking at inside of Northbeam is the sales channel here, making sure the attribution model is on click and views, which you can't look at brand on click and views. So we'll go through a training all day about why, but just know that you can't look at brand when you're on clicks and views. Northbeam is designed to pull all that information out of brand and give it back to either Google, other channels, or Google or other channels. Cash snapshot is just conversion value by conversion time. Accrual is conversion value. So that's just how this works. It's a time lag and non-time lag essentially. And then I was using a platform to remove everything else and just look at only my campaigns that I'm running, which is obviously Google and YouTube. And I'm looking at the last 14 days, and this defaults to a comparison of the last period. So now what I'm looking at, and then this little dot right there, will go from overview to first time to returning. Because here's what we're going to see is the client wants a 1.5. The client actually had a 220 when we joined, but the CAC was really, really high. The CAC was like $117. That's why he fired them, because they saw a 5x return, 4x return, and a 2.5 to 4x return, depending upon if it's smart shopping or brand, which is the only thing that they're running. But their CAC was extremely high, and they weren't getting new customer growth. So what's nice about this is inside of here, I can say, okay, we spent 159 grand in the last 14 days. We have 126,000 brand new revenue. It's costing us $57 to acquire a new customer. So for $57, actually, this is tough. Let me do this because the brand is going to be something that's going to mess this up. But let me just take out. Let me take out YouTube, because you can't use YouTube on click and views and then also look at the brand. So let's just do this. There we go. So our cost for acquiring a first-time customer is $46. That is what's coming through the Google channel. Now, when we look at clicks and views, you can see minor variations. Again, this is going to be good for Northbeam training, but this is where we see 3,000 new customers last 14 days that have $46 cost of acquiring a customer. The returning customers are 94. The reason is we spend a lot of times just like, funny money, $30,000 to get just returning customers to the brand. That's what's driving up that CAC. Without brand, when we're looking at without brand, everything else we can kind of see, okay, 30, 40, 85. Oh, this one's a little high. 52, 45, 47, 46, 18. Wow, Canada's doing great at 18. So we can kind of see what is the cost of getting a new customer and then reallocate spend accordingly. I was doing that actually already this morning where we sent over, hey, I've already done this. The ROAS is above 1.2. This is the cost of ROAS. Everything's above 1.0. I started a campaign, blah, blah. She goes, totally, yeah, feel free to give me an estimate when you're ready. Like, I'm just like, hey, I'm adjusting budgets, but I'm going over what is actually giving us a good baseline ROAS of above 1.2, but a customer CAC of under 50. Because when we look at $46 in CAC first time, and we're in, actually, I think I might have, oh no, it's still here, a $50 cost of acquiring a new customer. The average order value, actually, I'll just go right to, we don't even need Buy the Numbers app. We can just go right through here. Their analytics tab shows the average order value is $37. So my cost of acquiring a new customer is $9. That's how much it costs this company to acquire a customer out of pocket, $9. That's important because the $9 they spend out of pocket to acquire a new customer, it'd be great if it's break even for sure, but we have that big, huge reduction because of the sale. But the 43% returning customer rate, for how long? We can go through that. We can look year over year. It's actually like 3 years. So they spent $9 to make $37 at 40% of the time for years. This is what I'm retraining the client into.
This is not a glitch. I'm interrupting the video you're watching because I need to remind you that I'm always looking for people to join our team. So if you're passionate about Google Ads and you want to work with the best Google Ads agency on the planet, please go to so8.com/apply. Speaking of working with the best Google Ads agency on the planet, if you're having trouble with Google Ads and you want professional help, that's what we do. You can go to so8.com, that's SOL8.com, to apply for your free, no obligation action plan. And if I've given you any level of value at all, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. That's how we juice the YouTube algorithm so they actually know that I know what I'm talking about. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or confessions, hit me below in the comments. And now, back to your regularly scheduled program.
So once someone hears this, if I say it costs you $9 to make $37 with a 40% chance every month for 2 years, they would just say, here's just more money. Just keep going. I have 120% ROAS and the client's super happy. The owner says, here's 20, can you spend 25 grand a month on this? I said, yeah. Because they understand what we're looking at. So Kathy, did that help the how to calculate that?
Yeah, so we have a couple of relevant questions. They're similar in construct. Regina asks, can Buy the Numbers calculate CPA of a new customer? And Melissa asks the same question a different way. Since the majority of our clients don't have Northbeam, is there any other way to calculate CPA?
Say that one more time.
How else do we do this without Northbeam?
The client can put this together, but it takes time. Does this here. So let me let's do something real quick. Hold on. Actually, it doesn't do new versus returning. I have a sheet. Sorry, just give me 1 second. He just said to me like 2 days ago, so I'm just going through my email.
While you're doing that, I want to highlight something that John did because it's really simple math, but it's very important. He took, as soon as we identified the new customer acquisition cost, he took that and then he subtracted the average order value. And then he told the client, your cost to acquire a customer is X. That's a magic trick, y'all. Because people, generally speaking, don't think that way. So if your customer acquisition cost is $50, they think $50, but then go remind them, well, you made 40. And obviously it doesn't take into consideration things like COGS and overhead and whatever, but napkin math, $50 to acquire a customer, you made 40. So it's actually 10. And now what the client can see, you just lifted yourself from vendor to CMO, because that's the way a CMO thinks. And a CMO would look at that and say, oh gosh, all I have to do is spend $10 to acquire a customer. And if that customer comes back, then I can see my profitability on a timeline. And you assist them in managing their budgets long-term. Really simple construct that when deployed properly is it's clinical in its efficacy.
What's nice is no one can challenge it. And if the model doesn't work, there's two things that are wrong. One, Google Ads isn't producing the numbers that they need. And the two, their model is broken. I can come to Solutions 8 and say, I have a product that I pay $29 for and I'd like to sell for $30. Google will never save you. It won't. Google will never make that profitable. It is impossible. So there's a point in the model of the client that this is just not paid trafficable. The model has to be proven out first. And a lot of times we're the one that prove the model out. But the way that a person may measure how the model is working is not by, did you triple my money on the first sale? Again, very difficult to do. You can triple your money, but it's going to be a mix between new versus returning. But the returning customers are where a client go to atrophy and decay and pass away, essentially. And I'm going to make another point here that's really, really important. So this is actually right here. This one is the cost of, this is what send us is Facebook spend, Google spend, cost of acquiring new customer, blended new customers, and then revenue. And he ran a free trial and a free trial of the products. And then you see this 126 customers, 101, 118, 60, 90, 82. Okay. Then they removed free trial, and then you got less customers and made about the same money, or it made a lot less customers, but about the same CAC and made less money. So this potentially could look better than like the 92 and 88, and then 82 and 8 to 72, but they lost half their customers. Now they didn't make the revenue though. So how does 118 customers make 16,000, but 60 customers make 20? That's half as many customers and $4,000 more. Well, what are we tracking? We're tracking the cost of acquiring a new customer? Not really. It's blended. What channel's doing better? They gave us wicked reports, and it looks like we're doing better than Facebook, even though Facebook's spending 150, we're spending 80, and we're made 11%, they lost 77%. Both of these are blended, working together. So it does make sense that there's overlap here. We do run a lot of brand on purpose because the client likes it. But this is where we have to get clinical. We have to understand this at a CMO level, because when clients come to me and say, John, the ROAS is bad, I just laugh now. I'm like, I don't care. That's not what we track. That's not what's going to make you the money. This other client, I won't name him by name, but here's what we're looking at is, I was going to go to October of 2020. Oh, I should have went to October 2021. My apologies, everyone. Okay. Here's where the client was hemorrhaging cash. I looked at this and said, oh man, I have a lot of room to grow this business because you guys are losing a whole bunch of money. In 1 month, they spent $1.1 million, made $5.1 million. They were just, their stock just kept falling, new customers kept leaving. They had no idea why. Their Google team said, hey, 430 ROAS. I made you $4 million. Here's the real scenario though. When I came on board, and the reason why I said, hey, I think this is why you are all hemorrhaging cash and losing, and you don't know why, but you have a 4x return, 4.5x return on ROAS, and you're wondering why your business is dying. Is this the reason why? So back then, out of, God, this is slow. I'm sorry, everyone. Let me just pause my video for a second. This is going to help speed this thing up. There we go. Okay, out of 5,700 or 57,000 sales, let me start the video. Out of 57,000 sales, 9,700 were new. Okay, so what does this tell us? Well, it means that the average value of the conversion is $99, and we spent $22 of that. Now let's back up this metric, because everyone should be like, oh, You're never going to be profitable now ever. Why? Well, I have 57,000 and now I have 9,700 new. So let's pull out our calculator and say, what is 57,837 minus 9,780? 48,000. 48,000 sales in 1 month that you paid $21.89 for. You spent $1 million on your own customers to buy from you yet again. Now, if a lot of times what happens with clients, they say, hey, I have a $100 product. What's your profit margin? 30%. Cool. So you have a $100 product, you make 30, you have a 30% profit margin, which means you have now, after the 30% here, you have $70 that is profit. And now for the rest of your life, I'm going to suck out another 22 bucks. So not only did I made quote unquote ROAS on the first sale, but I'm making ROAS on every sale after that. Making ROAS on every sale after that shouldn't be in our vocabulary. Making a crappy ROAS on the first sale and then not going after these people ever again, unless we really need to, should be what we're focusing on. That's the main shift that agencies miss. They focus on, well, I got a 5x return. Yes, but you spent $20 on the 17th time the last 3 years for a cost. We only make 70 bucks. You took $20 of that profit that I could have reinvested into a new customer. I could have paid $20 for the cost of acquiring a new customer, which means I could have an 80% ROAS, and you took that, spent it on the same person, and just chucked it out the window. So I went and pitched this to the CEO. He was like, "Yeah, we have a lot of room to grow. You're hired." Now, it was funny is I have I took a campaign that had well, actually, let's do this. Let's do this. What did we spend total? We spent 1,134. So 1,134,417 divided by oh geez, 9,780. It's $115 cost of acquiring, or cost of acquiring a new customer. Also, this is 2x higher than what it should have been. This is actually 4,600. And I actually can prove that. You'll see inside of their back end when you look at last year, all of a sudden new customers went boop and then went boop again. I'm like, why are we chunking off customers? Like, oh, we found that was wrong. Oh, we found that was wrong. Oh, and that's why I was like, okay, so this number isn't even accurate. We need Northbeam. So this is actually 2x higher. This is a $230, and the CMO and the CEO would concur. So it's actual real numbers. So this is 115 times 2. So $231 cost of acquiring a new customer. At 231, when we look inside of, again, if we use Northbeam, but we don't necessarily need Northbeam if they have a person there that understands where their CAC is and where their LTV is. But that was 115 and actually 230. That $230 cost of acquiring a new customer after doing performance max, not even the Facebook agency yet at the time. But if we look at the last, let's just say 28 days, they went from 230 down to, and this is what true CAC is. This true CAC is actually real. It's what they actually send to Northbeam, $66. So it went from 230 down to 66. They had a 4.5x return at 115. You know, the numbers that weren't even real, but they had a 4.5x ROAS, and now Google has a 4.5x ROAS, but 90. So we've drastically reduced this. And I know this is true because what happened is they were missing their new customer targets. They were like, we need to get 80,000 a quarter. They had 46. We need to get 80,000 a quarter. They hit 41. This last quarter, they said we need 80,000. They hit 79,000. We were 1,000 off. First time in years where we actually were within like 5 percentile of their target. Usually they're 50% off of their targets. ROAS doesn't tell the same story. CPA doesn't tell the story. You really need to dive in of who you're paying for, how many times you're paying for. Are you sucking the profits out of that subsequent sale to have fluffed up ROAS? But then the client's like, we're still losing money year over year. Why? And then we're like, John, I don't know. Or, Sam or Caden or Qasim, Regina, we don't know. ROAS looks good. That's the one vanity metric now. So we have to think about, if we're bringing on new customers, the way that we do our jobs ROAS looks crappy. We don't go after existing customers. Your CPA is going to rise. Your ROAS is going to drop, but your cost of acquiring a new customer will go down, and will stop spending on them when they become a new client, so that every subsequent purchase that they do make is pure profit for you, rather than me sucking out another $30 out of that 15th sale to fluff my numbers. Again, another client that came on board, spending $65,000 a month in, so I'm gonna rephrase that. Another client that we brought on, spending $65,000 a month in Google, only on brand, smart shopping. When you Google their brand, their smart shopping ads pull up. We pulled $50,000 out of their, we pulled $50,000 a month out of their spend. And we just started doing it 21 days ago. 21 days ago, we pulled $50,000 out. The overall business is up 1%. How would that happen? How is that possible? How is it possible to 10x a Google Ads campaign? So I could spend nothing. Anybody that would look at this that's honest marketer and say you spent $2,600 and made $28,000, and my cost of acquiring a new customer is $36. Even Northbeam's wrong here. The reason why is this clicks. We know that the Facebook, we know that everything else that they're doing, their InStyle magazine ads, this is just the dumping ground for everybody ready to go. That's all this is. So I said, just stop spending there. You'll make more money. Their overall cost of acquiring a new customer dropped 10%, because I spent so far in the last 7 days even less on Google Ads. Like, just suck all the money out if you can. It's not gonna affect you. You're gonna see like Wonderkind, who was a previous user, they're gonna get the credit. We're going to see Klaviyo, which is your email, they're going to get the credit. Like, you're going to see unattributed go up. Why? Because they didn't come from a campaign. That's not where they were actually seen. You're already making that money. Stop spending it on the same people over and over again. The owner of the company is very, 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 very wealthy man. Think in the tens of billions. Owns a lot of large fashion brands. We just saved him $636,000 a year without dropping 1 penny in revenue. This company's never going to leave. We just locked this person into infinity. They might actually sue the previous agency, because they have it in writing where it says you'll never have 1 sale in cold traffic. They had that in an email. I'm like, oh God, that's egregious. Yeah, they said the reason why we don't spend anything else but the brand is you're never going to make a sale on Google in cold traffic. I was like, ooh, we built the whole company off of that. This is why. Depending upon what you're spending, ROAS doesn't make sense. I said that 10.44, that's not real. I didn't do that. I haven't even launched campaigns yet. All I did is just suck out a whole bunch of profit, and just for the last 7 days what we're tracking, he didn't lose a dime. Returning customers. CAC is way, way, way too high. The CEO told us the CAC is $200 and something. The CEO is wrong. The CMO is wrong. That's why the white label partner that were in there took over the whole company and hired us.
Full disclosure, I'm not making this video for you. I'm making this video for my future client who's going to ask me a question that I get more often than I'd like, so that I can respond with what is obviously a premeditated, consistent narrative, and they don't feel like I'm just trying to talk them off of a shelf or talk them down.